Capes on the Couch podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Dr. Issues is a psychiatrist, but he is not your psychiatrist and does not have knowledge of your individual situation. For any personal mental health concerns, please consult your own healthcare providers. For medical emergencies, please call 911 or the designated number in your area immediately. Remember that you are not alone and help is out there.
Hello and welcome to Capes on the Couch, where comics get counseling. I'm Anthony Sitko.
And I'm Dr. Issues.
This is issue number 74, Alfred Pennyworth.
I think he's worth more than a penny.
Yeah, worth a couple of pennies, possibly.
Perhaps even in for a pound. Wow, that's record time. I don't remember having a pun that early.
Yeah, usually you save them to the end.
Yeah.
So, it blows my, we're coming up on 75 issues, 75 episodes. Mm-hmm. Technically, we have more if you count the Mental Health Avengers, but I'm not counting those in the main canon line, so to speak. They're like the spinoff episodes.
Yeah.
So before we get started, a little bit of housekeeping as always. We've got a review to read from our friend Ray over at Into the Night. And I need to get to the post office so I can send him the international postage, but I literally have not had the time and ability to go to the post office. And now I'm a little hesitant because I don't know if I want to send coronavirus around the world. That's a joke. I'm joking.
You beat me to it.
I do not have coronavirus.
Yeah, because
recording.
Yeah, I don't need to be quarantined at your house.
No, I don't want to be quarantined at my house. So Ray on Podchaser says, quote, well worth listening for the entertainment value of comic book superheroes, but highly informative when it comes to mental health. Anthony and Doc Issues are on top of their game here. Analyses and skits make for a perfect mix. Thank you, Ray. As always, it's a pleasure to be friends with you and to know you. Looking forward. I will be guesting on an episode of Into the Night in the next couple of weeks. We are going to be covering the top 5 Moon Knight artists who are not Bill Sienkiewicz. Because we sort of all collectively agreed that Bill would all be our number one. So it's like, we're going to like throw all the love on Bill Sienkiewicz in the beginning and then go, okay, take him out of the equation. Who else is your top 5? Your top 5 Moon Knight artists not named Bill Sienkiewicz.
I will answer anyone that puts Moon Knight in that super cool looking white tie and button down suit.
So Declan Shalvey then would be.
I love that look.
Because he's the one who originated that. So he would be your number one. And before we get started, the plug of the week is Geek History Lesson. This is a very well-known show, but I feel like we've referenced them from time to time. Geek History Lesson is Jason and Ashley, and they take an in-depth look at a pop culture character every week. So it's not just comic books. They look at movies, they look at video games, etc. And so Jason wrote a book about superheroes that served in the military. So Captain America, John Stewart, a number of characters because Jason comes from a military background. And in addition, Jason and Ashley have a comic book called Jupiter Jet that, as far as I know, just finished up the Kickstarter for Volume 2. So there's some really cool stuff in there. I don't know if they've done an episode on Alfred. I think they're at like 300 episodes now. So there's a decent chance that they could have done an entire episode just based on Alfred. So if they've done Alfred and you really want to listen in on more of his background or more of an in-depth deep dive into the background of these characters, you can find their show at geekhistorylesson.com, and they're available pretty much wherever you find podcasts. So they haven't done Moon Knight as far as I know, but maybe they'll save it for when the show comes out. So fingers crossed. So Alfred Pennyworth, I would argue, certainly one of the more well-known characters that we've done, certainly just by virtue of the history. Everybody who knows Batman knows Alfred.
Yep.
So Alfred, and originally just known as Alfred, was created by Don Cameron and Bob Kane in Batman number 16, April 1943. So Alfred as a character is... He's got some legs under him as far as longevity. He's almost 80 years old in universe, or at least historically, publication history. I'm not saying he's almost 80 years old as a character, but originally known as Alfred Beagle, and then later retconned to Alfred Thaddeus Crane Pennyworth. So he was also originally overweight and clumsy, and he was the comic relief of the Batman stories because he wanted to be just as good of a detective as Batman and Robin. And then so later, his physical appearance changed to match that of the actor who was portraying him in the Batman serial, not the breakfast cereal. I'm talking about like the like 15-part movie. So since then, he's been slim with a mustache, a very pencil thin mustache, sort of balding with just a little bit of like the horseshoe hair. And that is how we all know Alfred to be, at least in the comics. So he serves as the butler / valet for Batman, Bruce Wayne, and Robin Dick Grayson, and is one of the only people who knows their true identities. Before Infinite Crisis, or before Crisis on Infinite Earths, he was an actor and intelligence agent whose father had served the Wayne family. Then after Crisis, he was a valet all of his life, and he served the Wayne family after his father passed away because his father had served the Waynes, and it was sort of his father's dying wish that young Alfred continue to look after the Wayne family. Then in New 52, we find out that Alfred was actually a soldier whose father served the Waynes. And at one point, Jarvis, his father, attempted to resign, but was murdered by the Court of Owls. Yeah. And we talk a little bit about the Court of Owls in our discussion of the Batman Endgame, which I'm going to mention momentarily. So Alfred had a daughter, Julia, who served in reconnaissance for the British Army. And the mother of Julia was Mademoiselle Marie, who was a French war heroine. And Alfred, for those of you who listened to our Joker Endgame review, we find out that he loses his right hand in that storyline. And he doesn't want it reattached because in his mind, since, spoiler alert, Batman dies at the end of the story, he feels that he doesn't need to have his right hand anymore because he's no longer right hand to Batman. So it's very symbolic. But then he has it reattached after Bruce returns because comics.
Yep.
Hopefully by the time this episode airs, we'll have the shirt out. But fingers crossed.
Cool.
So there's not like a ton of storylines because Alfred's involvement is pretty much assisting Batman. There was a time that Alfred walked away because he couldn't stand to see Batman, kill himself. And so he just said, I can't watch you do this. And he left. But Alfred...
Which is a very common sense way a lot of people would deal with that. But
Absolutely. But Alfred is one of those characters that has sort of always been there. And so getting into the issues, and this is something that we touch on both here and minor spoiler alert for the skit. Alfred has a character that is mostly defined by his relationship to Batman, that Alfred by himself is not, I don't want to say he's not fully realized, but Alfred exists in a way that is complementary to Bruce and is largely, there is no Alfred outside of Batman. And it's almost like, dare I say, that Alfred is written like many girlfriends or wives of comic book characters, that they have no characterization outside of their relationship, that we get bits and pieces here, but their only purpose in the story is to drive the main male character. Yeah. It's just in this case, Alfred is also a man himself. So he is a surrogate father to Bruce, and he carries all the burdens of knowing Batman, Bruce Wayne. He knows, frankly, a lot of the secret identities of the rest of the Justice League because he is so valued as an asset to Batman that Superman opens up to Alfred. The rest of the Justice League, they're very comfortable being around Alfred, which is a wonderful thing. But the surrogate father thing, because as we all know, Bruce's parents were gunned down in the alley with the pearls, the whole shebang. If you've seen a Batman movie, you've seen that flashback umpteen times. He serves as a surrogate father, which is not a role that he initially signed up for.
Right. This is a situation where purely because he knows this person, it's now his responsibility. That may not be true in real life. You usually wouldn't have the butler be the person to take charge like that. But it's clear that his established connection to the family, and you're an attorney, so you would know this better than me, but if they put that in the documentation, then so be it. It's great that he is willing to be that for a person that otherwise has so many things that were already in place for him to have success in life. I don't mean to minimize the amount of work and effort that Bruce would have to do no matter what. That's still true. But Alfred clearly was a guy that had other people in his life before Bruce. And the shift that anyone would have to take, no different than, let's make it even more personal. Let's say you are a cousin to someone, but you're a little older. And actually, this just goes back to Yorick. This goes back to any of the Disney characters. For whatever reason, you don't have your parents. You're the person that is considered closest to the situation, and therefore you're going to take on the responsibilities of parenting, despite the fact that either by choice or by circumstance, you had no other inclination that you were going to be a parent in that sense. Yes, Alfred has a daughter. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying, okay, his daughter now is moved on with her life. She's an adult. Heaven forbid it's a grandparent. Grandparent taking on grandchildren now and being their now parents. You thought you were moving on in life. You thought you were in a different transition. And now that's being pulled away from you. And you're going to have to either reinstitute things that you thought you'd never even have to think of again, or you're going to have to learn them for the first time. In either circumstance, there's a chance for resentment there. I had all of my vacations in Cabo set up with my free time, and now I have to make sure that I'm home every day to take you off the bus at 3:00. Just saying, as just one of those little examples of how a person's life can really change unexpectedly for the sake of a child. We know that children are important. Anytime a person's original plans are going to be thrown out, literally thrown out, that you can't, pardon my language, you can't half-ass something like that. If you're going to be a parent to someone, you are their parent. So any plans you have to do anything else, you have to at least put on hold, if not eliminate completely. Because if you look at the timeline itself, you figure Alfred is middle-aged, but I gave the example of grandparents. Let's be honest, there are some people that take on that responsibility at a time where they know it may be the rest of their life that they're going to be doing this. So that's not a decision to be made lightly. And often, because the person that's usually chosen in those circumstances is a person known for being able to handle a high level of responsibility, people don't provide the support that you would think. With newborn parents, everybody in general that is available will come to the service of the new parents to let them know that we're here for you. We've been through this before. We'll help guide you. But once you get that second generation or alternative generation that's taking that on, it's more like, oh yeah, we know you got this. Bye. And that leads the person to think, wow, I'm really just like diving into this without what I would expect from others, because no one else is, to be blunt, no one else really wants to do it. I hate to say that, but that's the reality. If other people wanted to do it, then in theory, you would have people lining up left and right. Maybe in this case, because Bruce is a rich guy, but other than that, nobody usually jumps at doing that sort of circumstance. So kudos to Alfred for doing it. I know that there is something underlying in terms of how he would feel in that situation, besides the grief itself for knowing the family, to also know that now any other plans that he had are completely altered. And how he handles that with the dignity and grace and maturity, it's definitely shown in the comics, and I'm glad, but I think it's shown purely because you have to focus on Batman, and it just doesn't dive into what I think would be really obvious points.
Yeah, and again, that goes back to that whole point that I was making, that Alfred doesn't really get his own characterization outside of his existence, outside of his relationship to Batman. And so it would make sense that Alfred would chafe at that responsibility at least some point. But he's written as this stalwart character and so on and so forth because that's what Batman would need. So it's not about how real Alfred is. It's about how do we need to write Batman.
Yeah.
But that sort of ties in again to the next thing, which is this idea of loneliness, because it does get touched on from time to time that Alfred doesn't have much of anything or anyone until Julie is introduced. And that's only like within the last 10 or so years that he has this daughter, Julia. I think. I could be wrong. You're more of the bad expert than I am, but
No, it doesn't. And it doesn't come up as a major point that often. So.
But this idea of loneliness that all Alfred has is Batman and the Bat family. That, again, until Julie comes along, this is all he has. This is his purpose. That's kind of heartbreaking if you really want to think about it. If you really think deep down into, again, the realism of it, that's sad.
Well, I'll bring that to something that may be a little more relatable, because I'm sure there's a subset of people listening to this that say, well, that's a butler. That's their job. What else are they going to do? But I'm going to take this to a part that might make some people a little uncomfortable. So if you're married, you have a stay-at-home spouse, you go to work every day, you get the experience of dealing with your colleagues, you may meet new people, new clients, if you're customer service, if you're even just on the front lines, if you're in the factory, you have your compadres that are also talking about work and griping about the boss and all of that. But you get a certain connection that is inherent to anyone that does something like that. This is not derogatory to stay-at-home parents. That's not what I'm getting at. What I'm saying is that spouse wants to make sure that they maintain their social circle. And if they're in a circumstance where either they think they don't have the situation in the proper setting to do that with their own friends, or maybe their friends are working at the same time, so they don't have the opportunity to chat during the day, or they have their child at home who is not old enough for daycare, and therefore, while some people may come to the house as the child gets older or the novelty of having a new child wears off, they're spending hours and hours just by themselves with a human being that can't talk back to them. Although it's a wonderful feeling. I'm not, once again, trying to knock any of these one particular point. I'm saying that it seems like each iteration of the same thing is happening. There is always a prolonged period of time where that person is by themselves, but is longing for the connection with someone else, be it their spouse, be it their friends, be it even just acquaintances in society. Many people turn to different avenues to help alleviate that, because loneliness can be associated with boredom. So they may go shopping more often. They may pick up a vice or two, such as alcohol, or, there's a reason why the trope of, the desperate housewife with a glass of wine developed in the first place. All of these things come into play because of the way our society is set up. During the working hours, during the work week, you are either going to be doing that or no one cares. I'm not saying that that is fair. I'm not saying that is right. I'm saying that that is overwhelmingly the way things unfortunately get designed. And people get marginalized in that way. And then if it comes up that the person at any point appears unhappy about the circumstance, the response from the people that in theory should be the most supportive and inclusive may end up being a backlash. I come home, I put food on the table for you, I make sure that everything is paid, the bills get paid, the lights are on, and all of that, and all you can do is whine about how you don't have anything to do? How dare you? That's not right. That's not fair, but it happens. So obviously, even the one person that's considered the greatest connection, if we're talking about a monogamous relationship, and I'm not even talking necessarily that it has to be a marriage, it could be, believe it or not, it could be roommates. There have been situations, let's say you have a roommate gets injured, disabled, can't work for a while. They can go stir crazy. What on earth are you doing all day? Aren't you supposed to be in rehab getting better physically? I've seen so many variations of this. And the fact that often these people are trying to anchor to that one person, while that one person is saying, I have everything else in my life. Why would I just anchor to you? It's such an imbalance anyway, that when that person who's lonely is looking for those other outlets, hate to bring this up, but sometimes they look for outlets that none of us think are healthy. I already mentioned a few, but also I'm talking about really breaking monogamous relationships, cheating, whatever, just as examples. But that's the reason those things happen. Now, I know a lot of people are saying, Doc, you're going way off here. What does this have to do with Alfred? Well, Alfred makes sure that Batman stays alive. He makes sure that he's able to be coherent enough for a business that he's supposed to be doing during the day. And he doesn't go out with Batman to do all of these things. But then in the time that he's not around, that Batman is not around, what is Alfred doing? He's cleaning everything up. He's taking care and doing his job, which is a solitary job. He isn't reaching out to other people as far as we can see. He's literally waiting for Batman to come back to know what the next thing is that he has to do. That goes beyond being a paid servant. That goes to indentured servitude and subservience that is not healthy and has not been considered healthy in society for a long time. So the fact that we just hand wave it and say, well, he enjoys what he does. Well, lots of people enjoy what you do. If you do it 24 hours a day, it's pretty common for human beings to get sick of it. So I think that plays way more into this, which once again, because he's not Batman, but he's an accessory to Batman, he has to stay in his lane.
Interesting. And so that sort of ties very well into the third issue, which is this focus on helping others, primarily, again, Bruce, the various Robins, the Justice League, etc. He can lose himself. And so again, this all sort of ties back to the notion that Alfred doesn't have a characterization outside of his relationship with Bruce. So I don't know if that has anything else that you want to add that you didn't already just touch on. But I mean, because it does come from a place of nobility. I'm not talking like nobility, but I mean, it's a very selfless gesture to want to help Bruce fight the scourge of evil, et cetera, et cetera. But he's so focused on helping Bruce in that mission that he doesn't have much that he does outside of that.
So the way that Alfred is characterized with how well he is able to do all of these things for the main character, I almost think he falls into the category of obsessive compulsive personality disorder. He needs things to be so organized at all times for everyone else around him that it allows him to ignore any of his own personal needs. In other words, if you're constantly looking and making sure that things are clean, if you are making sure that a person's wounds are tended to, if you have to make sure that whatever contact, telecommunications, business, all of it has to be running like a well-oiled machine all hours of the day at a moment's notice, then no one really questions whether or not you're taking care of anything that you want to do at any point. No one asks the question because they know that the other questions are quote unquote more important. Is Batman alive is way more important question than did you get enough sleep last night? Did Batman survive that last villain attack is way more important than when was the last warm meal that you ate that was prepared by somebody else so that you didn't have to take the extra time and effort. What was the last vacation you had will always come underneath the idea that Gotham has millions of people that may die if Bruce doesn't get there in time. We always have this matrix of decisions where you have the important, the not so important. I'm not going to say unimportant because that's not fair. And the urgent and the non-urgent. The way the comics are, you can pretty much put the bat symbol in important and urgent. And because that is so heavy, the other 3 quadrants are completely ignored in Alfred's life. That's not healthy. I don't care who you are. That's not sustainable. So, once again, to bring it back to the real world, this could be your job. This could be a hobby, believe it or not. Sometimes people get so caught up in certain side things that they end up spending hours and hours on a podcast. And I'm kidding.
I was like, wow.
I'm joking.
It's getting too real.
I'm joking. I'm joking about that. But I'm just saying, this could be anything in a person's life where you develop an imbalance, where you are so focused on what's considered the most important thing that you have decided is the most important thing at the detriment of everything else. Batman clearly does that, by the way. I know this isn't a Bruce episode per se, but I mean, can't really do it without him. So he's managed to create this and drag so many people along for the ride that he's permanently placed the bat symbol there, and everybody, not just his life, but everybody else's life kind of falls to that. That is incredible. That is so dangerous from a mental health standpoint. I'm amazed that when we talk about Arkham, we talk about the villains. How on earth are the rest of the Bat family? Well, I mean, Damian, but how is, and Azrael, how is it that these people aren't constantly in Arkham themselves? I know they're not considered quote unquote villains. I'm just saying, like, this is ridiculous what they got running here. It's madness. So the fact that Alfred is able to stay so calm about it tells me that he has decided that he doesn't have to put any other energy or effort forth in those other areas. Because if he did, we wouldn't see this dignified person. We would see this incredibly tightly wound, on edge, sleep deprived, absolutely ready to explode person that the second that Batman said something that was grammatically incorrect, Alfred would be screaming at him and throwing plates his way. Once again, that's speculation. I have never once laid pen to paper to describe Alfred, but I'm
so
telling
Alfred
you,
would be a real housewife.
I hadn't thought of it quite that way, but okay. All right, let's go there. Yeah.
Alfred's flipping tables.
I mean, once again, to point out that for dramatic effect, maybe not TV-wise, but I don't care who you are. You cannot sustain your life this way in reality. It's just the truth. So I love Batman comics. You know I love Batman comics. I love Alfred as a character, but I'm not going to say he's not realistic.
All right. Well, we're going to take a break, and then we come back, we will look at treatment for Mr. Pennyworth. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Think of a movie. By instinct, the first movie that comes to your mind is probably one of your favorite movies, one that is meaningful to you in some way. Maybe you connected with the characters.
Much more relatable to me that a chick could survive and have the cat come with her.
Maybe the story enthralled you.
It is a beautiful, moving, haunting movie.
Or just maybe it made an emotional connection at just the right point in your life.
Just an all-around nice movie.
But, and this is the part that's hard to believe, there are people out there who have not seen this movie. I'm Rafe Telsch, and my podcast, Have Not Seen This, aims to fix that. Each episode, I talk with a guest who handpicks a movie for us to discuss. A movie that they find astonishing that people may not have seen.
Why haven't people seen this?
We talk about the movie.
Lord Dannon being able to compel Willow to be the best version of himself.
We talk about life.
And I lived with roommates and we did hard drugs.
So join me on Have Not Seen This. Episodes drop every Wednesday, wherever podcasts are found.
Remember the first time you held a controller? That first cartridge you blew into so you could get that stinking game to work? What about your first comic you read? The first time you saw Star Wars years and years and years ago? Now you're an adult working full-time to provide for you and your family. But even after all of your hard work, you still make it your quest to spend time with your kids, hoping they find even the slightest interest in some of the things that you had grown up loving. Video games, movies, comics, My Little Ponies. Join me, Kyle Federline, every Wednesday morning on my quest as I discuss with guests what it's like to raise a kid and watch them take after some of our own interests as kids, or have no interest at all in the things that we had grown up loving. This is Parent Quest. Head on over to Anchor and ask me your questions, leave me a voice message, and follow me on Twitter at Parent Quest Pod, Instagram and Facebook at Parent Quest.
Hi, I'm Meredith Finch, and you're listening to Capes on the Couch.
And we're back. So, in-universe treatment for Alfred. If you could find the time to peel him away from tending to Master Wayne's every whim.
Well, it's in universe, so I'm going to go for this. I need to find a way to get to Batman. I need to figure out something that isn't going to get me maimed, because Batman doesn't kill, but he sure as heck incapacitates, gives concussions, breaks bones. So I need to be careful. I don't want to do something that is so dangerous that he really needs to physically attack me, but I do need to be on his radar. I'd almost like to find a way to get my hands on Dr. Hugo Strange's equipment. I really want to know what's going on, and I want to get Alfred in it. I do. I want to just absolutely get into that head. I don't understand how he's been able to endure this for this long. So from that standpoint, anything I could do to get Batman's attention so that Alfred would make me a focus, almost... I have a completely alternative idea. Because one person can't manage a whole mansion. I don't care who you are. He needs some help. He needs a lot of help. I'm Alfred's understudy.
Okay.
Because then he has to actually show me what it is that he does on a daily basis. And that gives me the opportunity to question it. And I want to question it to needle him. Not to needle him to antagonize him, but to actually make him wonder, how is it that he's able to continue to do these things without actually creating the rest of the life that he is going to have to live at some point? If he doesn't think that he is going to develop some sort of physical limitation as he gets older that will not allow him to meet the services of Bruce Wayne, let alone Batman, then he's sorely mistaken. And if he's not ready for a transition like that, he's going to create more harm for Bruce. That's where I get to him. The idea that he would actually be responsible for creating harm for Bruce Wayne is something that he wouldn't be able to tolerate. And so therefore he would have to start to delegate to other people, including me. Not that I want to be a butler, but I'm saying I need to get in at that level. And it doesn't become an affront to someone like Bruce Wayne, because we already know if Alfred is accepting of him, then there's a greater chance that Bruce is accepting of me. So I think that's my way in. I totally changed mid-course. I think if I go that route, it allows me to get to know him on a level where he would actually allow me to make the kind of changes. Yes, it would end up almost being like the typical comedy where, hey, you can't mess up my system, and like, oh yeah, well, watch me. But that type of challenge would be good for him.
Okay. Alfred's understudy. It's a fascinating concept. Don't think it's ever been even considered in the comics.
So I need to, what you say is, I need to make sure I get that out to DC before they take my idea. Yes,
you do. So, hey, as we're recording this, Gail Simone is running like comic school for folks that are staying at home due to the coronavirus. So I'll take a look at that Twitter thread and see if there's anything in there that you can use. So out of universe, go for it.
Yeah, we have those people. We have those people in life that just feel like they're totally isolated, that everyone else is living a certain life out, quote unquote, out there while they're in here and there's nothing for them. And they're trying to fill that void. So first of all, as I've mentioned in numerous occasions, giving them that voice, making sure that they're heard is the number one thing. From there, it becomes a development of what do you want to work on first? In other words, what is the most pressing issue for you? We need to change this rubric again from someone else's most urgent, most important. What is your most urgent, most important? Is it your friend circle? Is it acquaintances? Is it a job? Is it something outside of the home? Is it more inside the home? Can you do something from your own home like a business? So maybe a podcast is a great idea. See, I can bring positive to it too. Whatever it is, focus on one quadrant at a time, because all of them need to be dealt with, but it has to be dealt with from the person's standpoint, not their significant other's standpoint. So that's the first thing. The second thing is processing the fact that the person may not be aware that there are emotions tied to this. In other words, their first thing may be that they're connecting to someone again for the first time in a long time, and that's their only focus. But above and beyond that, do you want to re-strengthen the original relationship and challenge the boundaries with that person? And we can be a guide to that. We're not telling them, oh, well, you need to break up with this person or you need to divorce them. We're not telling them, oh, well, you need to go to couples therapy and all. Well, I'm not going to lie. Sometimes we do say that. But my point is, whatever decision is made, okay, how do we support you so that the next step would be your own personal strengths and weaknesses when it comes to interacting with others? Interpersonal therapy can be crucial for this because it's a use it or lose it scenario. If you haven't actually taken the time to meet other people or talk to them in different circumstances, it could be around a common hobby. It could be in circumstances that you don't even know. The best agency that I know of, and this has nothing to do directly with psychiatry or psychology, is Toastmasters. The idea that you develop public speaking skills, because it gives you the confidence, especially about things that you don't even know about, to simply put yourself out there and say to people, I'm confident enough in something that terrifies the majority of the world, and I'm still willing to do it. Once you get over that type of hurdle, as a person who has been isolated or has dedicated so much of their life either to other people, to family, to a vocation, you've been a missionary for a long time, things like that, where you're expected to be totally selfless, and now you're trying to develop your own personal habits, routines, whatever, that can be incredibly powerful. And it's something that I don't think we recognize as much, and we should. You don't have to go to Toastmasters. You can do it yourself. But the fact that you get feedback from other people, because one of the things that becomes scary for someone that's become lonely and isolated is not just the idea of rejection. Like, what if people don't like me? It's, what if they're right? Because criticism is fair. There's nothing wrong with someone saying that there's something that you can improve on, because all they're saying is, I noticed that there's something that can make you better. But if you take it as you're less of a person, that's where it becomes harmful.
Truth.
So that's where a therapist really can help a person get out of their shell a little bit. And yes, this is something that I'm saying for myself as much as for anybody else out there. I recognize that. But it's so amazing when a person that has never actually taken the time to write out their goals of what they want in life, what they want, not what their spouse wants, not what their family wants, what do you want? And then to actually take that first step towards whatever goal that is, that's amazing to see. It really is. So someone like an Alfred, where you've just pushed everything away for the sake of others, please, this is a call to action. Take that first step. Just write it down, tweet it, whatever. As long as it's healthy. I'm not saying anything negative. Take that first step to say what it is you want to do for yourself instead of for someone else.
Good call on the call to action. It's been a while since we've done one of those.
Yeah.
I know we were doing them pretty steadily for a while, so
yeah.
We'll have to get back on that. So let's see what happens then when we get Alfred Pennyworth on Dr. Issues' couch.
Hello, Mr. Pennyworth. I'm Dr. Issues.
Pleasure to meet you, Doctor.
Please sit down. Make yourself comfortable.
Apologies, sir. It's just, I noticed your magazines are quite askew.
Well, patients don't take the time to clean up after themselves. They get sorted at the end of the day.
I'll tidy them up over here.
That's all right.
No trouble at all, Doctor.
All right. I'll wait. Okay. Are we ready to begin?
Yes. Sorry, sir.
It's fine. Now,
That picture on the wall is a tad off. If I could just...
Mr. Pennyworth, I appreciate you coming in here and organizing things, but the purpose of this session is not to clean my office. Although it's telling me quite a bit about you, so please sit down.
Yes, as soon as I...
Alfred, leave it be.
Yes, sir.
I see you have a bit of compulsion for organizing. Must come in handy in your line of work.
Well, Master Wayne has so much on his mind, it's my duty to help him make sense of the rest of the world and keep his life free of clutter.
Even at the expense of your own life?
I beg your pardon, sir.
Doesn't seem like you know how to let loose. I fear that the stress of your job and everyday life's going to catch up to you.
I appreciate your concern, Doctor, but I promise you I'm quite all right. Now, about that picture there...
I get the feeling that you're uncomfortable being the center of attention. That must have made it difficult for you as an actor.
Oh, nonsense. I was quite comfortable acting. I excelled in ensemble roles.
As long as the spotlight wasn't solely on you.
Well, precisely. If I can help uplift those around me, I feel fulfilled.
But what about you? I understand you feel good helping others, and that's great, but who helps you? I fear that you're spending so much time focusing on others that you're losing any sense of self. You're still a person with needs, Alfred. Make sure they get met once in a while.
You know, in some way, I feel we're kindred spirits, you and I. You clearly dedicate your time to your patients, but there is a practical measure that's applicable to all this that you're missing for some reason.
Which is...
Pardon me, this is perhaps too forward of me, but how much money do you make?
Point taken. Okay, everyone needs an occupation to pay the bills, but once the bills are paid, I plan for outside activities. And wait a minute. Let's flip this around. You work for a billionaire. What's your excuse?
As you have indicated, money is not an object. I do what I do because I care for the Wayne family. My father did, and it's now my responsibility. Someone has to look after them, even if Master Wayne doesn't always make it a priority.
Well, when do you expect them to?
Quite frankly, I'm not sure he's capable of it. Therefore, the job falls to me.
Not capable? A man of his intelligence, his means, his ability to care for a ward, both by choice and by fate, yet he can't do what you do. I'm not sure I believe that's the case.
Well, you can choose to believe it or not. It's just a simple fact of life.
Wow, how fatalistic of you. Okay, this might be a little touchy, but does he view you as part of the family?
Absolutely. In many ways, I'm the only friend he has. And before Master Damien came along, I was the only family he had.
Father figure?
To him, yes. The tragedy struck him so young, he needed someone to lean upon. Naturally, I was there to help him recover and grow.
Okay, so he grew up to be Batman with a singular focus and disregarding all other aspects of his life. So all those other aspects he leaves to you. So why didn't you just help him diversify his interests?
I would never take it upon myself to dictate to Master Wayne how to live his life. My only responsibility is to be there for him in whatever support he needed.
So he never left the cave?
I feel you're being rather hard on him, Doctor.
I apologize. I think I need to be more clear. Perhaps I'm being hard on you.
How so?
A parent does need to give a child their space, but they also need their structure. And they don't usually need adult aftercare. I know it's your nature, but that's what you're doing now. I mean, he has his purpose, and you're sublimating everything to it. Where do you go from here?
I simply go where he goes.
And who would you be without him?
I have a daughter. I have my hobbies. I could make do, but I choose to stay with him. I believe in him. I believe in his mission, and I believe in my lifestyle to assist him. I know that I was born to help him.
Quite resolute. And if there had been no Batman, just a rich playboy philanthropist, what then?
Then I would do what was needed to help him in that regard.
So we've established that the person is more important than the cause. Is that right? Okay. All right. If he were a thief, if he were a murderer, what then?
The simple fact is, Doctor, he is none of those, and therefore hypotheticals do not apply.
Okay, then let's use facts. You have a man who chooses to isolate himself, who at times runs against the grain of society. He's outside the law. He's willing to fight. He puts his life on the line, yours as well. At times he sacrifices his personal relationships, his own physical and emotional health. He's ostracized numerous people that could be allies, and you're there by his side, cleaning up the mess.
And I will continue to clean up the messes because they are made in the pursuit of good.
Without your take, without your je ne sais quoi, without the need to address your own emotion to it. Look, I know it's lasted a long time, but I don't know if this can last forever.
But when that day comes, I will address it as needed. Until such time as he no longer needs me or my assistance, though, I will be there. Now, if you'll excuse me, this painting needs to be adjusted, and then I must take my leave.
I can do it myself.
Very well, Doctor. Then I wish you a good day. You know, so often we have villains that you don't get through to, but it's very rare that we get a heroic character that you don't make much headway with. But I think this was one of those instances.
Yeah. I will say that if Alfred is genuine about it, then a person certainly has the right to live their life that way. And I do hope that it is as fulfilling and as enjoyable as he makes it sound. But that doesn't mean that we can't investigate and make sure that a person like that is not being misused, because that's more common in reality than the good overall nature for society like Batman is portrayed.
That is very true. That is very true. There's a very high risk and potential for abuse in that type of relationship. So that's going to do it for this episode. Next episode is our 75th episode. Like, just mind blown.
Yeah.
So 75th episode is Capes in Court. How do you estate plan in a universe in which death is not permanent? So that is the central question of the episode.
Well, you could do what about 80% of the society does and just not plan at all.
Yeah, that's a harsh reality, especially for someone in my profession.
Mm-hmm.
That is a very harsh reality. Thanks for rubbing that in.
Well, I'm not blaming you. I'm saying people need you and don't use you. That's my point.
I know. So that's the topic for the episode. So we're going to flip it around a little bit. Doc is going to be asking the questions and I get to be the expert. As horrifying as that sounds. And then following that, it's going to be Kamala Khan, as requested by Ruby. And then the idea of secret identities in comics. And that is requested by Matt. So those are the selections made by our patrons. And you can join the ranks of our patrons. If you go to patreon.com/Capes on the Couch, you can subscribe at the $1, $3, and $5 level, earn a whole bunch of additional awesome content. The bloopers just went up, and we've got the review coming up for Lock and Key, which I believe by the time this episode airs will have been recorded and released solely for patrons. So you can check that out. We've got our TeePublic page. You can go and check out some cool merch. We just finished with our sale, and we are available wherever you find podcasts at this point, pretty much. As far as I know, we're on all the major podcatchers, and you can find us on social media at Capes on the Couch and email capesonthecouch@gmail.com. So that's going to wrap it up for this episode. Doc?
How on earth does he clean the dinosaur or the penny? Those things are gigantic.
I'm sure Batman created some sort of magical spray that Alfred can use to help clean things. It works with nanotechnology. I don't know. Really? That's where you go with this?
What? The dude has to clean everything. It's a cave. Can you imagine someone like that saying like, oh, yeah, just live in this dank, dark cave with all this other stuff and I won't worry about it? Really? Come on.
I'm sure he's got some sort of dehumidifier there. He's got sensitive computer equipment. There's no way.
There are bats flying around. I'm sorry. I don't think they're in the guano business.
How do you think he makes his billions?
How do the computers not get filled with crap?
I can't help you there.
I've been thinking about these things for years.
I can tell.
Uh-huh.
And you can continue to think about them on your own time. For Doc Issues, I'm Anthony Sitko. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
Capes on the Couch podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Dr. Issues is a psychiatrist, but he is not your psychiatrist and does not have knowledge of your individual situation. For any personal mental health concerns, please consult your own healthcare providers. For medical emergencies, please call 911 or the designated number in your area immediately. Remember that you are not alone and help is out there.